crying little.
Hello and welcome to Months and Made This. My name is Michael and I cook vegan food, so if you're interested in that, definitely click the subscribe button below and give this video a thumbs up while you are down there. Today we are using an ingredient that I've only used once on my channel before, and that is TVP. And we're going to be using this to make a kind of a Frankenstein of dishes. It's a combination of my Buldak recipe, which is a spicy Korean chicken dish, and it's similar to a Dan Dan noodle recipe, but it all starts with this being hydrated with some water and some Bragg's liquid aminos, and then we're gonna make a sauce to toss with it. This dish is really great to, I don't know, you can put it over rice, you can put it over noodles, you can make a sloppy Joe type of sandwich. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the TVP hydrated, and I'll talk about everything else as we go through that. So TVP stands for textured vegetable protein. I found this recently, or bought this again recently, because I couldn't find any tofu or any tempeh, and so I was looking for a kind of a easy vegan protein to use in a dish, and so I picked up a bag of this, and the rest is history. I've got a cup of hot water here, and I'm going to be adding a cup of the TVP to that. Just for a little bit of flavor. You could use broth if you wanted instead of the water, but I'm adding a little bit of coconut aminos. You could just use a little bit of soy sauce if you wanted, and that's just gonna help the TVP darken a little bit, just so it has kind of a meatier color, and it's also gonna add a bit of flavor. So I'm just gonna stir these together. The sauce mixture that I'm gonna be making here in just a second is gonna be a little bit more, we'll have a little bit more sauce than we will TVP. If you wanted to up the recipe to a cup and a half, you could, but otherwise I kind of like having a little bit extra sauce. So I'm just gonna cover this, and this needs to hang out for about 10 minutes so the TVP can absorb that liquid, and it's gonna be kind of like a ground meat texture, which is exactly what we want. So I'm gonna set this aside, and I've got all my ingredients here ready to go for the sauce. The base of the sauce is gochujang, which is a fermented spicy Korean chili paste. And just to warn you ahead of time, this is quite a spicy dish. So if you like spice, this is definitely the one for you. And if you don't like spice, I guess you could put a little bit less of the chili powder that we're about to add, but it's still gonna be kind of a fiery dish. So I'm adding just about 2 tablespoons of Buldak to a measuring cup here. And normally when I make this recipe, I use a Korean chili powder, but I don't have any of that today, so I'm just using a basic chili powder that I got in the Latin section of my grocery store. And I need about the same amount of chili powder, about 2 tablespoons. The full written recipe will be on my website, monthsandmadethis.com, so you don't have to worry about writing it. Just go ahead and follow the link below to that recipe. So chili powder, chili paste in there. I have a bunch of garlic here. I'm just using the pre-chopped kind today. And I think the recipe calls for like 8 cloves, so I hope I'm about there. The recipe also calls for some fresh ginger, which I don't have any of, so I'm using just a little bit of ground ginger. I need a half cup of soy sauce. Today I'm going to be using Bragg's liquid aminos, and I'm just eyeballing all of these here. I think that sounds good. About a half cup of that. I need 3 tablespoons of agave. Now you could use maple syrup, or you could use just granulated sugar. Brown sugar would be good as well. And I have some sesame oil. We do need quite a bit of this. Black pepper. All right, and I'm gonna be using this little whisk here. I'm also gonna be adding water. And the reason I did this in a measuring cup is so once I have all this mixed together, I can just add water up to the 1 cup mark. So whisk this the best that I can. So I'm just mixing this up, and then I'm adding just enough water until it reaches the 1 cup mark, which is gonna be about a 1/4 cup. So I'm gonna set this aside, and then I'm gonna grab some more things that I need to chop up. I just finished the sauce. The TVP is on its way to full hydration. And while that's happening, I'm going to be chopping up some veggies that are gonna go on top and alongside this dish. So I have some asparagus here, and it's just what I have in the kitchen, what's in season. And so I'm just gonna chop these up into little pieces. I like to have kind of a green component. I like to have a green component to this dish. I actually came up with this recipe using zucchini. So it's gonna be just like a sesame garlic asparagus, and it's really nice just to go alongside, or you can even put on top, depending on if you're gonna do like a rice bowl or a noodle bowl. So I'm gonna set these aside. So those will saute in their own pan. I have some garlic. This is for the asparagus, and I'm really into cutting thin little discs out of my garlic lately. And this is nice because if you like garlic, you get a nice hit of garlic. And we added it at the very last minute just so it the flavor is mellowed, but it's still got a really nice pungent garlic flavor. All right, so that's gonna set aside. On top, I like to add some peanuts. So I just have some dry roasted peanuts. Make sure to read the label. I know the Planters one has gelatin in it, so just read the label on your dry roasted peanuts to make sure it doesn't have any animal ingredients if you're trying to keep this dish vegan. So I'm just roughly chopping these. Sorry, I rearranged some bowls in my kitchen and they're under this island, and so they're being a little bit noisy. Green onion. And I'm going to just use the green parts. I'm actually gonna try to regrow those. Just roughly chopping these. And the last thing I'm gonna put on is cilantro, which Ben and I actually cooked a dish the other night. Actually, it's the Asian nacho cups. Just Google Asian nacho cups, and it's one of our favorite dishes that I've ever made. And I remade it the other night, and I didn't have any green onions or cilantro, and it was surprising how much of a difference there was, like how much was missing. Obviously, if you don't like cilantro, you could use something like parsley, but if you like cilantro, you like green onion, you'll definitely notice a big difference to your dish if you don't have them. Oh. All right. So we have all of our things chopped up. I'm gonna head back to the stove behind me and we'll start cooking this stuff up. My TVP is hydrated. I'm just gonna fluff it a little bit with a fork, and you can see that it's all completely hydrated. Doesn't really have much flavor now, which is why I had to make that really delicious spicy sauce. I have my pan here heated up to like a medium heat, and I do have a little bit of sesame oil in there. If you do have a really good nonstick, you don't need any oil. I actually like the sesame oil for flavor, so I have that in here. So I'm gonna add the TVP into the pan. And my goal here is to just get this a little bit browned up. I know it sounds weird that we just hydrated it, and now I'm trying to like maybe remove a little bit of the liquid, but it improves the texture. It's not so soggy. It has just a little bit more of a bite to it. Also, I have this pan over here, which I'm gonna be turning on to medium as well, and I have a little bit of sesame oil here. That's where the asparagus is going to cook. And then back here, I have a pot of water, and I'm going to get that to a boil. I'm gonna be using some rice ramen noodles. I'll show you a couple ways to plate this up, but one of the ways is gonna be with rice ramen noodles, so I'll be cooking those back there. And I already have some rice made. I'll just microwave that at the end as well. So I'm gonna just kind of watch this, move it around, try to get it nice and browned up. It's not gonna get too dark, but again, just to remove a little bit of the moisture that we put in there, give it a little bit more texture. And oops, I forgot one thing, sorry. Onions. I have some onions that I've already chopped up here. Another good thing in this would be jalapenos. If you had some fresh jalapenos, adding them at this point as well would be delicious. So this dish is inspired by this Korean dish called Buldak, which when I first had it at a restaurant, on the menu it said very spicy chicken with cheese. And it's such an incredibly spicy dish. It's one of those dishes that you like take a bite and you have to just keep eating it in order to keep up with the heat so it doesn't take over your whole face. And I veganized the recipe using soy curls like a year, maybe 2 years ago. And it's such a great dish. Ben loves it, I love it, and I decided to try it with using that sauce on another type of medium. So that's how we got to this with the TVP. You could also use tofu. If you look at that Asian nacho cups recipe, the way that I do tofu in that, it would be a really great way to like sort of brown up the tofu, crumble it, and then use that sauce as well. You could use mushrooms. That sauce is amazing, pretty much on anything you can put it on. So let these hang out, and I'm gonna be adding the asparagus here in just a moment once that gets heated up, and there is some sesame oil in there as well. So this I kind of like to let it sit so that it browns on the bottom. While that's working, I'm going to take care of the asparagus. The sesame oil is heated up, so it should sizzle when these hit the pan. All right, and as I said, the garlic is gonna go in at the very end. So I just wanna get these coated in the sesame oil. I'm gonna add a bit of salt as well. So I'm just looking for these to get a little bit of color, to soften up a little bit. I still want them to have a lot of texture, so I don't want to get them overcooked or anything. Just get them colored, get them flavored. We'll kiss them at the end with a little bit of liquid aminos, which is pretty much my soy sauce. And then we'll add the garlic in just basically right before at the moment when I'm turning it off. And that'll help to ensure the garlic doesn't burn, but that it gets mellowed down a little bit, that you're not just eating raw garlic. Let's check on the TVP here. So it looks like we are getting a little bit of color, which is great. I really love this cast iron pan. I used non-stick for so long, and I do love my Curtis Stone Durapan non-stick, but since I've been using cast iron a little bit more and kind of just getting more comfortable with it and making sure it's all seasoned properly, I'm really in love with the way that they cook. So it just has a couple more minutes on here. Again, I want it to reduce. It does smell really good in the house. Like the onions are smelling great. I don't know what it is about the TVP without much flavor in there that's actually smelling pretty good, but we're cooking. We'll probably have this whole meal in less than 20, 25 minutes. Oops. Give these a little bit of a toss. And these might be done before the TVP, which is fine. They can hang out. I love asparagus, but like I said, the same treatment with zucchini. Pretty much any vegetable. You could even do it with something like spinach or kale. It's just nice to have a green, fresh component to go alongside this really spicy dish. I've also made some pickles here, which these are just quick cucumber and carrot pickles in rice wine vinegar. With spicy dishes, it's nice to have a little bit of acidity to help cut through some of the spice. So I'm going to be serving those alongside as well.
Is it too hot? Is it too hot, Odie?
My asparagus is done. I've tasted it. It's delicious. I've just turned the pan off. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid aminos here. And then I'm going to add the garlic. And so this is just going to hang out while I finish up the TVP. And that's done. This, I've let it go. It's gotten nice and kind of brown on the bottom. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but I can tell that it is browned up. So I'm ready to add the sauce. So like I said, this is going to be way more than you need. You could up the TVP if you wanted, but I like to have a little bit, especially having it as a leftover. It's nice to be able to add a little bit more the next day, just so it's a little bit more saucy. I'm also going to turn this down to maybe medium-low. Smells incredible. And the goal here is just to get this absorbed into the TVP and also to get a little bit of caramelization on, said that word so weird, just to get a little bit of color onto the sauce because we've got all the sugar in there, all of the agave, so it'll caramelize up just slightly. I think we can use a little bit more sauce in here. All right, so I've actually got this down on low. I'm gonna kind of spread it out just so that there's a lot of contact with the pan. This came up to a boil. Turn it back up here. So I'm gonna be cooking some rice ramen in here. I have a whole bunch of noodles that I took out here actually. So if you have any like ends of the spaghetti, or I have some other kinds of ramen and buckwheat noodles, things like that. Whatever noodles you'd want, or like I said, you could use rice. So I'm gonna cook up a couple of these cakes of the lotus rice ramen. And I think it takes about 4 minutes to cook up. And I think by the time these are done, the TVP will be finished as well. The asparagus is already done. And it's all about plating it up and digging in. I have some leftover rice here that I'm just gonna microwave for a minute in the microwave. And this is so that I can show you how I like to make a rice bowl with it. The noodles are just about done. I've got the heat turned off on the TVP. Asparagus is done. We're almost there. The noodles are done cooking. Again, use any type of noodle you want and just cook them according to the package directions. I'm just gonna drain these. Now, if you're not gonna be cooking or not gonna be eating these immediately, like if you're gonna be maybe like making a batch of the noodles to put on the table for people to help themselves, I do recommend maybe putting a little bit of sesame oil into the noodles just to keep them from sticking to each other. So I'm gonna do that now. Not too much. And that just, again, keeps them from sticking to each other. The house smells amazing and I'm so excited to dig in. Let's look at everything that we've made. We have this delicious Buldak inspired TVP. It's just basically a really spicy, sweet Korean ground vegan meat. We also have our asparagus, which has some sesame oil and some garlic. I'm just gonna put this in a pretty bowl here. To top it off, I'm gonna add some black sesame seeds. Sorry about that sound. Add some black sesame seeds because I don't have any other kind of sesame seeds. Just gonna sprinkle these on top. We have pickles that I've made ahead of time, and I'm just going to put these into this pretty little bowl to serve alongside. Like I said, these are really easy to make. Basically, it's just cucumbers and carrots, a little bit of garlic and onions, and it's just in some seasoned rice wine vinegar, which has a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt in it. And I'm gonna top these with a little bit of sesame seed as well. And we have our noodles, which these are rice ramen, could be any kind of noodles you want. We have some rice, which is just, I prefer like a sushi style rice. And the last thing, which is kind of a last minute addition. So the original dish, Buldak, has mozzarella cheese melted all over it. But instead of adding vegan cheese, I wanted to create some sort of sauce. So I was gonna make a cheese sauce, but the last minute I decided to just use some coconut milk. So this is full fat coconut milk, and it's just gonna be drizzled on the end for a little bit of cool break against all of the spiciness. So I'm ready to start building a bowl and show you how delicious it is. So I'm going to be assembling this bowl, and like I said, this dish is kind of inspired by Buldak meets Dan Dan noodles. So I've got some delicious noodles here in the bowl, and I'm gonna add some of my Buldak inspired TVP, and I'm just gonna be putting it off to the side so I can put all my ingredients around, and then later I will mix it all together. Add my sesame garlic asparagus. Add a few of these pickles as well. And then I'm gonna top it with, let's go, cilantro, some green onion, some peanuts, and then I'm gonna drizzle on this coconut milk. And there we have our Buldak inspired Dan Dan noodle-ish delicious dish. got this all mixed together, and now I am ready to give it a taste. It is so good, so comforting. I just love the spice. It's like a nice warmth around your mouth. It's not like a really sharp hitting, like burning spice. It's like just a nice warming your whole face up. The pickles here, really nice. They just kind of cut through some of that heat. And as well, the coconut milk kind of adds a bit of a coolness, and the coconut flavor really does come through. So if you don't like coconut milk, then don't add it. But I think it's a really nice addition to this dish as well. I'm gonna finish eating this over on my Patreon, which is where you can watch the Months and Ate This videos. There's a link below, but it's patreon.com/monthsandmadethis. So I wanna thank everyone that's already supporting me and helping me over there. And if you would like to help and support this channel even more, then definitely follow that link below and subscribe to that. So thank you again for watching. I'm hoping everyone is doing great out there. Get yourself in the kitchen, get some TVP, make this delicious dish, and then tag me on Instagram at Months and Made This. I will see you next time with a brand new recipe video. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.